welcome back. Joining us for our first conversation, we have with us in studio this morning Kaya Katus. She's a Belize City Councillor with responsibility for sanitation and maintenance. She's accompanied this morning by a liaison officer for CEMO, Melanie Dawson. Good morning.
Hi, good morning.
And along with them is Lennox Leslie. He's the works manager at the Belize City Council.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hurricane season. We always think about preparedness, right? We all have a plan at home, but the city has a plan as well, right?
Yes.
Let's begin by talking about the plans for the 2025 hurricane season at the municipal level.
Okay, well, for us here at the council, I mean, we have been doing a lot since last year. I've always said this. It's like a continuous work for us. So basically, our plans would basically start with for us to update our hurricane plans. But we have now changed our platform from just looking at hurricanes. We now have this at the plan, more looking at it at a multi-hazard level.
Disaster
Yeah.
risk, all disasters.
All disasters. So, I mean, that encompasses, hurricanes, floods, tsunamis, all of that. We try to incorporate in our hurricane plan. And in addition to that, we did our annual shelter inspection. That was in February. So our team went out along with NEMO. You guys know that we are an umbrella of NEMO, so we work closely along with them to get our job done within the city. It was a team of technical persons. So the team was comprised of the city engineer, our city planner, building inspectors. We had the NEMA coordinators as well. And we also had persons from the Ministry of Health, because they have to ensure, that all of the health policies are in place. We had the police department. So we go out, we conduct our inspections to make sure that the shelters are structurally sound. And then we would then send our reports to NEMA headquarters, and then they would then issue out the official shelter listing. I'm hoping they issue it out, by this week. Yeah.
A significant part of preparedness at your level is keeping Belize City as clean as possible, right?
Yes.
Removing whatever debris or cleaning drains and what have you so that water can run off. Let's talk a bit about that, Kaya.
So when we think about the hurricane season, we think June to November. However, at the City Council, our preparation starts in December. So as soon as it's over, we start again, and December to May is when our drain digging, our picking up of debris, assisting people with taking hazardous items out of their yards and that type of thing. So we try to ensure that during those months, we do the bulk of the work. So June to November is where we just try to maintain.
Right.
Belize City is below sea level. That's a fact. If it rains, it is going to flood simply because the water has nowhere to go. Making the drains deeper keeps the water off the streets, and ensuring that the outlets are cleared and that type of thing ensures that as soon as the rain stops, the water tends to run off quickly. So that is the kind of work that we try to do at the sanitation department to ensure that we keep the city in a condition that is, good for everybody during those months.
What type of awareness are you all doing to ensure that us as citizens also maintain? Because I know you all have one job to do, but you can't really do it without the help of everybody. So how are you all ensuring that people are also adhering to some of the rules and regulations that CEMO puts out?
Well, when it comes to our part at CEMO, we try to do an outreach at the primary school level. We start with the kids. That's our target, the kids, So we do have our CEMO field officer. He would go in the schools, do preparedness tips. We also, and this is incorporated too along with our public health officer. So, she would also accompany him, give tips about, not to litter, not to throw garbage in the drains and all of that. So that is where we start first with the kids at that level. I know you guys may have been aware of the flood mitigation cleanup campaign.
Yes.
Yeah, that was what we used to kick off, the start of the hurricane season. Well, one of our mitigation strategies that we used this year. So that was done along with the sanitation department and the works department.
We also have our PR team and department at the council who tries to get out, different social media things to inform people, especially the younger generation who are more in tune with that type of thing.
Right.
How to go about to get things removed or to do their part.
Yeah.
Let's get Lennox in on the
Yeah.
conversation at this point. So you are a works manager.
Yes.
And this ties in closely with what the city council is attempting to do through CEMO. Let's get your input.
Okay, so I was given the mantle of works manager 2 years ago, and it has been a very good role. I think I handle it well. As the works department, what we focus on is we have an action plan. So after we sit down with Miss Melanie, we would start cleaning out the outlets. So the outlets, as you see, Belize, the side to the Belize is facing the sea, the Caribbean Sea, and facing the creeks. And so we focus on cleaning out the outlets initially, and then it makes it a bit easier for us to transition to the streets that would lead directly to the outlet. So by cleaning out the outlet first, it makes our task a bit easier. So when we had that torrential rain that happened in last week,
Yeah.
we sent our team to clean out all the outlets, and that's what we've been doing. And to follow up with what the councillor said, Belize is under sea level. However, the term as an engineer that I would refer to it as would be low-lying areas. So what happened is that low-lying areas would be in that the elevation of the city is directly with the sea level, and it goes up to about 3 feet more. So what happened is that when it rains, there's storm surge starts at 3 feet to 5, and then when it comes into the city, it floods it. So our task is to try to mitigate and get the water out of the city.
There are some problematic areas of Belize City, though, because when you think about some parts of Belama, for instance, where it's rough back there when it rains, or when the Halover Creek swells, all of those areas become inundated. How are you guys managing that?
For that one, what we did, like we said, we focus on the outlets. There's the Halover Creek that passes behind Belama.
Yeah.
And so by us ensuring that the outlet are cleaned, it allows the water to come in and then go out. One thing that I want to say is that when it comes to flooding, like a very well-known teacher of mine told me, is that with flooding happens everywhere. To test to see how good your drainage system work or your strategy work is to see how quick the flood recedes.
Yeah.
So that's what we try to focus on. You can't stop flooding, and that is something that I believe is very important to educate people about. Flooding will happen, but it's a time frame that it takes to run off that lets you know if your strategy and your action plan has worked.
What other strategies are you all focusing on? I know that you all had recently invested in 2 machines that kind of like cause it to slow down just a bit. The pump station, 2 pump stations. How have those been helping you all with the work, and is it really a good tactical plan in the long run?
Yes. And I would like to say that Belize, we've mentioned, is low-lying. So what happens, the natural drain system that we have cannot take out all the water as quickly as we would like it to. So what the pump station does is that it pumps the water out at a higher rate and takes it from the low-lying urban areas and push it out into the sea as it's connected to.
Let's talk about shelter readiness. You guys did an inspection in February, you mentioned, right?
Yes.
What is the integrity of some of the structures that we use as hurricane shelters here in Belize?
In the integrity, meaning like
Can they stand up?
Yes.
They're still in shape.
Yes.
We have to
So you have to repair it.
school.
Yeah.
All right. So when it comes to the structural part of it, we did had, like I mentioned, the engineer who is the expertise in that to check the structural parts of the shelters, and this is why we have in our plans to have these shelters to withstand up to a category 2, right? After a category 2, we try to advise residents to move out of the city. So they can withstand up to, that category. I mean, they did have, like minor, defects like the windows and such, but NEMA along with us, we're working along to try to get these small parts fixed. But when it comes to the structure of the buildings, they're good.
How do you advise citizens to take heed of these warnings? Because every year, and we know it because we have this conversation with you all, but we also try to have the conversation with our viewers where we say, don't wait until last minute, pack your bags, leave. And then we still see incidents with persons waiting at the very, very last minute to
Dealing
leave.
with humans.
You are dealing with humans, but
So they put themselves in danger, and they also put us at risk, because when we have to go out to try to rescue people in those times, I mean, it's definitely dangerous on everybody's part. So, I mean, taking heed, following, taking precaution. Like Ms. Mel said, if it's above a category 2, get out of the city. If it's a category 1 and your home cannot withstand, get out of your home. Shelters are provided. It is free. You may not be necessarily at home and at your most comfortable, but you're safe. Your kids, don't go to shelters and take your entire household. Take what you need. Have a hurricane plan. And that's the type of thing that we try to.
We recite this
every year
between June and November 31st, right? Or 30th or whatever, last day in November. But I mentioned earlier, we're dealing with humans, right? We have a habit of taking things for granted, right? Despite the fact that at the start of the 2025 hurricane season, we know what to expect. I believe it said above average or what have you, right? Doesn't necessarily mean that one is coming to Belize. It doesn't mean that one won't come to Belize. Right. But we have to have a plan in place nonetheless. Question is, how many of us actually have a plan and are prepared to execute that plan once push comes to shove? Because it goes back to what we're saying. You still have people who will wait last minute to try to get on a bus to get out, or last minute to try to go and shop for certain items where you probably should have been stocking up on during a normal course, right?
Right. You are so right. This is why for us at the council, we try to instill this in our staff. We have this capacity building initiative, a training that is called, having your family plan in place. So we try to have this training with our staff internally to let them know, hey, you guys are first responders, so you guys have to make sure that you have your plan in place. And the plan entails, making sure that you buy your goods prior the hurricane season. I mean, even if it means to buy one canned food, per week, or whenever you get paid, you buy maybe like 2 or 3. Have your documents in place, make sure that you have them secured, and all of that. So this is where we try to start internally with our staff, and then we also try to share this with the public as well. And like you said, we're dealing with humans. We do have some stubborn ones, but for us in Belize, dealing with hurricane, I know I would say that we are more receptive to this, and taking precautions now.
We were talking about the hurricane shelters, and that's why I kind of thought about it, because a lot of the times these shelters, maybe they get crowded. How do you all manage once the persons arrive there?
All right, so when it comes to the hurricane shelters and the procedures, we do have, like I mentioned, our staff at the council, we're first responders. So we would then have shelter managers. They would be then called shelter managers in that capacity to open the shelters and to man them. When they're full to capacity, we would then, extend and open more shelters. If our shelter listing would then run out, we do have a backup shelter listing. So we do have our contingency plans in place when it comes to shelters.
In terms of hurricane preparedness, you all talking about kits, right? I know all of you mentioned it. What do your kits look like at home? What do I put in a hurricane kit?
All right, I mean, that's like I would say a personal decisions depending on what you like, or what you need,
What you need. So
your
what do you need?
necessities.
Yes.
Yes, your necessities. So for, I would say your canned foods, let that be the first essentials. Medications. If you need special medications, make sure that you try to get maybe 3 months supplies. I know, in the NHI program, maybe you can get, your supplies prior, and to make sure you have water. Always have water. And yes, would you like to say something?
No, just
Okay,
agreeing.
what would you add in yours?
Light, definitely light. Maybe a flashlight.
Yeah, lights, batteries,
Travel documents.
Correct.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
personal stuff.
A first aid kit as well.
Definitely.
You never know, you need some band-aid, some hydrogen peroxide, things like that.
And I'm glad you brought that one up, and I know it just swirled in my brain, but when we're dealing with natural disasters, of any time we're talking about flooded and flooded prone areas, a person's traversing through flooded prone areas, you need to have safety measures and so forth. Some people say they can't avoid walking through these flooded areas. So how do you
I've
keep
invested in
safe?
good rubber boots, man.
Rubber boots, you're right.
Rubber boots are expensive now.
Hey, like I keep saying this, right? Because we all live in the city, we know where most of the flood-prone areas are, right? And I think it's a worthwhile investment for anyone who lives in an area that is quickly flooded. Just buy a pair of rubber boots,
Yes.
a good pair of rubber boots, because you don't want to be walking in water that has bacteria and things that could give ground.
It's easier said than done, though.
I know. And I hate the idea of repeating that human beings will deal with, right? But you have to have something in place on a personal level so that once you put that into effect, you guys who are working at the municipal level have an easier time.
Right.
Right? It makes life easy for everybody when hurricane or tropical storm or whatever weather system makes landfall in the city.
Right.
Let's talk rules and regulations, because even though we've been taught the hurricane flag signs, for some reason we still don't really understand what they mean. So if we could just go through, what do we do when we start to hear the hurricane warning up until the very end?
All right. So yes, it starts at the 72 hour. That's like the preliminary phase. So this is where you guys need to have your discussions, what your plans will be like. Then we go to the 36 hours. This is where you need to maybe start making your move. If you need to evacuate the city, please do so. We have been taught this from the primary school level, but like you said, we never ever take it really into consideration. Talking about evacuation, I would want to make mention that for the city, we also do have an evacuation plan in place. So we have assembly points in the event. We need to take residents outside of city limits into Belmopan. We have assembly points of where we will do pickups to escort them out of the city as well. So there's a lot that we're doing at the council, and we try to also share this information on our Facebook page and our website.
Yeah, I also think it's important. I think Mr. Leslie could clarify this a little bit more, but even if a hurricane perhaps doesn't hit us, but it maybe hits a neighboring country or so forth, waters tend to still travel through Belize, and it does end up flooding at some point. So what precautions can citizens take when it comes to that?
Very good question. Like Mel said, the first thing would be the public awareness. We need to inform them, update them of what is happening, because the water travels, so there's definitely people monitoring the water. After that, then we know what we start planning. I think planning is very important, because then that would tell us if we would need to utilize the pump station, or if we could wait for the water to find itself out of the city. So those would be the two steps. However, my mindset has always been 1 ounce of prevention is better than 1 pound of cure. So the more that we try to prevent, the better it's for us.
Okay, great.
That's a really good question, though, because sometimes you would see flooding within the city, and you're like, no rain, you know, what is happening?
Yeah.
And that,
Go
Yes,
ahead.
I would like to say something also. What we're trying to do is under my management and the works department, we want to focus on the low-lying areas. We're currently talking with BEL, where they have this very advanced drone system in which we want to do surveys. What we've found while in this position is that the streets there, some of them are low-lying or low.
Lower
Yes,
than others.
lower than others. So what we could do is by taking elevation points, we could tell, okay, which part of the street is low, which part is a bit higher, and what would be the best way to channel the water out from that street quickly. So what we have been doing would be taking like an eye level, but I think we should put some more innovation into it and use technology to help pave the way through.
That's a brilliant idea. For anyone else that is looking for tips on how to access perhaps shelters or updated information on this storm, where can they go?
That would be our Belize City Council Facebook page and the website.
What are the names of those?
Okay, it's the Belize City Council page, and the website is the same thing.
Belize City Council?
Yes, So in the event, NEMA would share advisories or any precautions, then we would also share that as well.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Thank you all so much for joining us this morning, and
Right,
I'm
thank
sure
you
you'll be
too.
on the couch with us again throughout the course of the
Yes,
hurricane
yes.
season to provide these tips. Thank you all so much for joining us.
All right, thank you too.
All right, we are going to take another quick break, and sticking on to the topic of hurricane, it's all about health first and hurricane safety with Javier. Don't go away, we'll be right back.